Welcome back to my channel. Today is my first video in my release day reading vlog series. Today we are going to be discussing Weather Girl by Rachel Lynn Solomon. It came out today, January 11th, and I bought a Kindle version to react to. Last year, Rachel Lynn Solomon wrote The X Talk, which was about a girl, the hating game I'm thinking about. Enemies to lovers workplace situation. They worked in radio and it had grief in it. I thought it was good. I know there were mixed opinions, as are there in every book, but I enjoyed it. I think I give it 3.5 or 4 stars. So come along with me on this journey if you want. Obviously, if not, I don't know why you clicked on the video. Oh, that was rude. So come along with me on this journey. I am not going to be doing spoilers, although I feel like spoilers before the 30%, maybe 20%, they're not even spoilers. It's just like the beginning of the book. I might go like all out on spoilers at the end, although I'm not anticipating many, but I will give you fair warning if that happens. So I will see you guys soon. I don't mean to hype you up prematurely, but I think this is gonna be great. I had to wait until I was finished with work to start reading, obviously. What an utter shame. I'm only like 10% in. First of all, it's just well written. I feel like it's very detailed. It just weaves so easily through an introduction. It's not blasting us over the head with like an info, what is it called when they just slam you with information? And also weaving through the backstory of our main character. There's no dual point of view, so it feels just kind of nostalgic because it's a true character book. We're introduced to Ari. She is hanging out with her brother, which I love a sibling relationship in any book, and they're goofing around, so I love that tone. It's wonderful. We find out that Ari was previously engaged. Obviously, it was serious enough for them to be approaching their wedding. She says that they broke up 5 weeks ago, so it's pretty recent in my opinion, and she's been in the gutter about it. The book actually opens up with an author's note by Rachel, and I don't know what it is about an author's note, but it makes me like the book 100 times more. Usually you get it at the end. This one's in the beginning. Rachel describes this book as a romantic comedy with a depressed antagonist, which is like my brand. Oh God. And she warns us about weather-related puns, which I was very much expecting going into this. Something else I really liked about the X Talk was that there were serious topics being discussed, and it wasn't just this happy book, which is actually what I heard some people didn't like about it. So, to each their own. This definitely, there's some funny lines in here already, but there's also kind of a moody tone, and Ari does struggle with depression, as we find out through the author's note, but also she censors herself a lot, and she tells herself, oh, I have to keep it sunny. Ari lives in Seattle, and she actually loves the rain more than the sun, so I guess that's a metaphor for her character, is that she feels different because she's not as sunny as people would expect her to be or that they demand her to be. Okay, let's take a picture about what's going on. Ari is a weather girl for a news channel. I probably didn't even mention that, so if you're confused, I'm sorry. Ari loves her job. She's been obsessed with the weather since she was a small child, and she was obsessed with one particular weather girl named Torrance, who happens to be her boss now. So she's worked at this news channel station, whatever it's called, for 3 years now, and her boss doesn't really recognize her as a coworker or as someone. I guess she's not really respectful for her as a person in the field, you know what I mean? There's also another manager named Seth, who happens to be Torrance's ex-husband. They work together, they have a pretty hostile relationship now, but they somehow can make work happen. We meet Russell through an email. I believe Russell is going to be the hero of the story. He seems like this quiet guy who's just nice. There is a holiday work party, which made me so excited for the holidays, and I realized that was last month, so I have to wait another 11 months for that, which is just tragic. And at this party, we get some internal dialogue with Ari, and she is talking about how now that she's broken up, it seems like she's been dumped, really, because she's so devastated, and it seems like she is way more aware of how attractive guys are, which was just hilarious. So she's looking at Russell and she's like, damn, he's kind of cute. And I was like, oh, I'm really feeling this, because I feel like the work crush relationship is so relatable. That's literally how I met my husband. And also something I really like about having one point of view is that I feel like the stakes are higher. You sort of do know, because it's a romantic comedy, that the hero and the heroine are going to end up together, most likely, but you don't know if the other person likes them at what point, you know what I mean? So usually in a romantic comedy, you're like, why aren't these two people getting together? They obviously like each other. But then when it's one point of view, you finally get the idea like, oh gosh, but what if he doesn't? Like, there's a tiny little chance, and it kind of makes you realize that if this were you would be hesitant. So I'm excited to learn more about that. Although I really like Russell, and then at one point, Ari mentions that she's Jewish and he gets all awkward. So maybe I don't like him. That was just sketchy. I don't know if he's gonna explain what's going on, why he just got suddenly like awkward and quiet. But I hope they explain that, because that was just weird. That was a red flag. Russell is one of the sports newscasters or writers or something to do with sports at the news station. So they see each other a lot at work, but they're very civil. They're not like open, they're friendly, but they're not friends. And she says it's because he always cuts conversation short, but that she would, like to be friends with him. So I feel like this is very relatable. Honestly, this is giving me big Sarah Dessen vibes, which if you've watched my newbie tag, that was my first introduction into reading, really. And I was absolutely obsessed with her, still am. And so this is becoming a very strongly rated book already. It's the tone, the nostalgia, I don't know what it is about it. If you're reading this along with me and you've read Sarah Dessen, you know what I'm talking about. I think one of the reasons I am pleasantly surprised how much I like this book is because with the title Weather Girl, and I think on the description there were a bunch of weather puns, which I was planning on enjoying in like a romance campy kind of way. But it's much more serious. I mean, it's not totally serious, but it just feels way more contemporary, and yeah, that's why I'm excited. Also, that's it. Okay, I'm taking a reading break to eat some pizza. Delicious. Babe, you're not listening, are you?
No.
So we found out some more information. We find out that Ari's mother has some mental health issues, some pretty severe ones. I'm not gonna diagnose her, but it sounds like she has some sort of bipolar depression situation going on. And it was pretty influential in Ari's life, dealing with it, having to be the grown-up when her mother just could not deal. Ari herself started noticing symptoms of depression, although she didn't know that's what it was at the time in high school. And honestly, this hit a little too close to home, because I have a very similar situation, my own depression. She goes to college, she gets a counselor because it's just getting to be too much just for everyday living. Again, scarily how much that is similar to me. She's diagnosed with depression, and that diagnosis gives her a lot of power in her life, which I know some people don't feel that way, but Ari did. And she tried to tell her mom about it, and her mom is so dismissive, it's heartbreaking. Again, I can relate, as I'm sure other people can watching this, that her mom was just like, we all get depressed, you just need to fucking deal with it, whatever. And so Ari has been taking medication since, and she has, which is, good for her because it's working for her, that's her choice. The only thing that's really sad is that because her mom has struggled so much and has made such a negative impact on her childhood, that Ari is forcing herself to be this cheery person no matter what. She's also had a couple of relationships in the past where she shared her depression and she shared her true moods, and it totally blew up in her face because she was either dating children men who couldn't handle it, or I don't know. We then find out that the reason that Ari's fiance broke up with her, he broke up with her on Halloween because he found out that she was taking medication. He had no idea that she was struggling with depression,
which honestly, that's a fair thing to be upset by. Being in a very long-term relationship, you're about to get married and you have no idea that the person who's supposed to trust you hasn't trusted you with that. But they have a fight, I don't really know what commences, and he dips out, which has got to be heartbreaking based on her experiences in the past. Anyway, we find out in real time she's at her brother's house for Hanukkah, and her brother announces that their mother has been hospitalized. She's checked herself in because she had an episode. I realize it's kind of stupid to vlog while I'm eating because then I'm chewing and I can't speak. And then at work, Ari's really surprised herself because she's been way more open with Russell, who she's had like one real conversation with. She's allowing herself to show her irritation and her negative thoughts as well as her positive ones. And so she's really surprising herself, and he's taking it in stride because, you know, he's a decent person. Oh, and it turns out that he was so weird about her saying that she was Jewish because he's actually Jewish and he hasn't shared that information with anyone at work, just to like probably, I don't know, he seems like a quiet person who keeps to himself and doesn't share too much information about himself. So we can take that red flag back down. That was a misunderstanding. What is this? Russell and Ari have agreed to parent trap their bosses that were previously married. They are going to set them up just like the Netflix movie Set It Up. I think that's what it's called. I like that movie, so I'm not totally mad. This is the only part of the plot that seemed like a kitschy romance so far, because this is very much a contrived romance, like, situation, you know what I mean? But it's cute that there's a romance within this romance story. There have been some sparks flying between Russell and Ari. They had a drunken conversation where they obviously both noticed that they were attracted to each other. Nothing came of it because they seem pretty shy. They are both deciding to do this to make work just a nicer place to be because it's becoming very hostile, but also so that their bosses will be in better moods. Again, it's literally just Set It Up from Netflix, this part of the plot. Also, referring to this situation with their bosses as parent trapping reminds me of the fact that Ari revealed to Russell, well, sort of, she revealed to us anyway, that Dennis Quaid, who played the father in The Parent Trap, was her sexual awakening. It was probably the chest hair.
We've had our first plot twist. I'm not gonna spoil anything. It's actually like under the 30% mark, so I might mention it later, but I will warn you. I was not expecting this. It has to do with Russell. If you know, you know. Okay, I am about halfway through, and I feel like I'm reading like a different book or something, because, not totally, it's not, I always sound so negative when I start. It no longer sounds like a Sarah Dessen book, which, you know, is fine. It's not a Sarah Dessen book. I fangirled for a second and I let myself get carried away. Excuse me. Yeah, I feel like I really enjoy beginnings of books immensely more than the middle or end, the only other options, because the author is forced to create this like world building aspect. They have to introduce you to their character's world, and I get off on that shit. But it's the kind of detail that I want throughout the book. And I feel like this has turned less detailed and more into plot, which is fine, you know, but that's the difference that a 4 and a 5 star is gonna make for me. I am surprised that I care about Torrance and Seth. Like, I don't care that much, but I care enough to be like squealing at the thought of them getting back together. Also, it's very obvious that there's like a meta situation going on because Russell and Ari are discussing how to force these couples together. And they're like, oh, we need forced proximity. And it's like, well, okay, I see what you're doing there, Rachel. I just don't totally buy the fact that 2 almost 30-year-olds would do this kind of shit. Force their bosses together. I don't know, like maybe on a 1-off or a 2-off kind of thing, but planning massages and getting roped into it, it's feeling a little cheesier, but again, it's not too cheesy. I feel like it's still a good book and I'm enjoying myself. I do like that Russell is such a good guy, because I feel like the heroes of a story they usually end up as a good guy, but they're usually parading around as an asshole or some tough guy. And I appreciate that we get something a little different here. We get a true nice guy, which serves its own problems, because there are those nice guys, and I'm sure you guys all know them, those guys who are so nice that it's hard to break that barrier. But yes, Ari has announced to herself and to us that she has a crush on Russell, and I get it, but I wish the author would like make things a little more tense. There is a situation where Ari falls down a set of stairs. She breaks her elbow and he has to like help her get undressed, and that part's pretty sexy, you know? I feel like the author could have done a little more to convince us of this crush. I'm excited for whenever they get together, because, and Ari has pointed it out, that it's kind of hot to see the nice guy go bad. Oh, I can't believe I just said that, but Rachel Lynn Solomon said it first, I promise. Please excuse the fact that I look like A from Pretty Little Liars. It's the next morning. I'm very tired. It's before work. We had our first kiss between our characters, and this is suddenly feeling like fan fiction. It just seems so weird that Russell would get so jealous and that Ari would be so immature to be like, why would you be jealous? I mean, the scene itself of them kissing was very steamy, but how they got there, this is feeling like a different book. Also, I forgot to mention last night that we haven't even mentioned her depression or her mother for like chapters, and I don't know, we're losing momentum here and I'm getting a little sad. So hopefully this can pick right back up. We'll see. I am now 75% into this book. Up until just now, from like the 50 to the 70%, was so effing boring. I was like, why am I reading this? And I was really disappointed. But then Russell just said something that was really insensitive, because he's feeling like things are going too fast with things in his life. I instantly would have never talked to him again. At least that's what I say. Things are gonna get a little more interesting because Ari is bringing Russell to meet her family. Obviously there's a lot of stuff going on with their family and has gone on with their family, so it's gonna be a meeting. I don't know what I'm saying. I don't even know how to vlog, so I'm sorry. I think I'll come back when I finish the book and I'll give you my final thoughts. I changed my shirt because we went out to dinner, but I've just finished Weather Girl. I have gone all over the place with this book. I liked where it ended up, but yeah, I think I'm gonna give this 3 stars, maybe 3.5. I feel like I'm being more harsh because I really liked the beginning of this, and I'm thinking to myself, I just had a Kindle Unlimited video where the book wasn't as good as this book, but I give it 4 stars because it surprised me so much. You know what I mean? So I guess rating is just irrelevant. I'm just gonna talk about the book. Things I really liked in this book, I really liked the talk about depression, obviously because I relate to it, but I think it's more than that. In the author's note, we find out that Rachel Lynn Solomon also deals with depression, and I think that's what really made this part of the story shine, because she's so closely related to it and she knows it so well. She described it so well, and it wasn't a plot point, you know what I mean? It really was a part of the character, and it was a part of the entire book. I think those were the strongest parts, the parts that felt really true. And the things that I didn't like were the kind of offhand things that did not seem very true, that did not seem genuine. The entire plot of them getting their bosses together could have not been in this book, and it would have been better. It would have been a better book, in my opinion. I like Torrance and Seth. I like that they, you know, had a second chance romance. And I would have not minded having that in the background. What I do mind was the silliness of that, of Russell and Ari scheming. I know the author had to get them together, but I feel like they could have just had an office romance. Also, one of my favorite things about this book was that it was one point of view. I feel like we don't get that enough in romances, and I really thought it was good. As for Russell, I liked certain parts of him. I liked that we got a nice guy, but I also felt like his character wasn't developed enough. This was a kind of slow burn. They had sex like once or maybe twice, and it was after like the 60% mark. But at the same time, I feel like there was something missing. One thing I really liked about this story was The third act conflict is usually so annoying to me as a reader, just because it's so blatantly, obviously a plot point and it feels forced. And I thought it was going to be that Torrance and Seth found out. Oh, I'm not going to spoil anything. I thought it was going to be one thing. I'm sure many other people did. And then a plot twist happens. And then the actual conflict happens after that. And that conflict it's not really a spoiler. I'm just gonna say it. Ari pushes Russell away because she's self-sabotaging, and I totally believe that as a conflict. She's pushing him away, and she is almost pushing him to the point where like she's gonna see when he freaks out or when he says something that she doesn't like out of irritation. And I so understood that. I've done that myself. I know almost every person I know has done that. So I thought that was really believable. I'm very interested to see what other people are thinking. I think I really psyched myself out because I really like the tone of the beginning of the book. I forgot to say, I also like that Russell wasn't traditionally what we see in a hero. He was heavier. He says himself that he's fat, and I like that they included that because it's always like some 6'2" slab of meat that's the hero. So yeah, definitely appreciated that. I also appreciated in the discussion of depression in the author's note in the beginning that Rachel Lynn Solomon says that, you know, we're not always as lucky to have Ari's very kind of steady battle with depression, that she is doing very well and it's not always like that. And she says that, you know. And I also appreciate that while Ari is on medication, she's also very adamantly involved in therapy. So I like that inclusion. There's something else. One spoiler thing I'm about to say. I loved that Russell had a kid, his daughter Elodie. I like that she was older. I feel like I always kind of am hesitant when there's children in a romance novel because it always becomes a source of conflict. And when they're really, I don't know, I thought Elodie was really fun because she was like older and she was kind of a teen. And to see that relationship between Russell and Elodie, it made us like him more. And it also showed Ari that she could trust him because, you know, he's a father, so he's obviously not quit on his daughter, so she could rely on him to be her partner. That's all I really have to say. If you made it this far, congratulations. You win a Stormcloud brooch. I don't know. I know this was a mess. I know I talk so much in the beginning of vlogs. I'm gonna try to figure out my vlogging situation and how to best do it with time. So thank you for your patience. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.